Welcome back. Today we are going to discuss how strength training is one of the best tools to actually improve your flexibility. So when we're talking about how to use movement and strength to solve years of joint pain, which is kind of what this whole page is about, there's three things that we look for to limit the impact on our joints. There's movement patterns, there's obviously strength, and then there's mobility, flexibility. And why I love strength training is because it improves all three. So as you're building strength, when you're doing the moves to build strength, you're practicing those movement patterns to better coordinate your movements. But then you're also improving mobility in a couple ways, which I'm going to discuss here. So way number one is that a lot of these strength training movements increase the length of the muscles through eccentric contraction. So what an eccentric contraction is it's just the lengthening of a muscle as it contracts. What happens as you're building strength is that you get kind of small micro tears in that muscle, and then they rebuild, right? But they rebuild longer. So one of the best examples is with the weighted hip hinge. So this is an eccentric contraction of my hamstring. So again, as I reach my hips back, and let the weight pull me down. At the bottom here, big pull in my hamstrings. And so as part of my strength training routine, I do a lot of these weighted hip hinge. And over time, you're gonna have lengthening of the muscle. This is one that I've personally experienced. I used to be tight and not be able to touch my toes until I started incorporating some of this stuff. The other way that it can improve your flexibility and mobility is by improving the range of motions at the joint themselves. So our joints are surrounded by ligamentous fibrous joint capsules, and a lot of times, again, if we just aren't moving enough, you can kind of get adhesions, and those joint capsules can be the thing that limit movement. And what's so awesome about strength training is it gets us into the end range of these movements, and that's where you can actually stretch these joint capsules to allow greater range of motion. So the example here is just kind of a squat hold. So if I take a little bit of weight and sink into my squat position, again, this is my end range, and this is one of my favorite hip mobility exercises, where you really just sink down into the position, press my knees out, really try to get my hips down. And what I'm doing is, again, getting into that end range to stretch those joint capsules, and that's going to allow more range of motion in those joints if you do it often enough. So I hope that makes sense, but what I really want to emphasize is the importance of strength training in improving mobility. Again, it's a lot better than static stretching, even dynamic stretching. If your goal is to get looser, if you're just in that stiffer body type, strength training is an absolute must to improve flexibility and improve mobility. So once again, my name is Dr. Baird. This is Solving Pain with Strength, and I want to thank you for being here. If you have any questions, leave a comment below.